so I guess welcome back from lunch, half or so of you. By a show of hands, who was at our cannabis workshop back in like spring of 2017? Bill, yep, cool. Right on. So this is kind of parasitizing what we did in the past, but I'm Justice Rasmussen, and that's Catherine Talbot. We're both with the Calaveras County Agriculture and Weights and Measures Department. And what we will be requiring of you guys is essentially to come in, obtain the operator ID, regardless of whether or not you guys spray chemicals, what chemicals you spray. Obviously, they have to be legal for what is allowed on cannabis. But we will be requiring you to come in and deal with both our weights and measures side and our pesticide use enforcement side. So our doors are always open between the hours of 8 and 4, Monday through Friday. So just a quick overview of what we do. Pesticide use enforcement, like I said, we don't treat you guys any different. We're going to do the same thing with walnut growers, cherry growers, rangeland, anybody spraying rangeland, or even a pest control business like Clark. And then, any device that's weighing or measuring, we're going to be certifying and testing that annually, just like we will your scales. Other aspects, we're going to do the roadside spray, invasive weed eradication, nursery inspections, certified producers, farmers market inspections. Speaking of scales, a lot of people will probably end up with like a farmer's market scale weighing in pounds, but we'll go over that later. Okay, the players involved, kind of how we relate. So there's EPA, and then at the federal level, that kind of delegates pesticides in terms of our enforcement. So anything with an EPA registration number is a pesticide that we are going to want reported. And we'll go over that in a bit. And then there's CDFA, who is essentially our regulatory body for producers like you guys. And then there's DPR, that's another state agency that oversees our pesticide use enforcement program, and essentially how we issue operator IDs, how we enforce laws and regulations. Then there's Department of Measurement Standards. Again, that's our regulatory body at the state that involves our weighing and measuring devices, certifying our devices. They certify our standards. So when we're going to be weighing your scales with our weights, those standards have been certified by Division of Measurement Standards. And Calaveras, or the County Agricultural Commissioners, obviously us. So we're kind of twofold. We kind of, some counties will break it apart or have previously where you have the Agricultural Commissioner and then you have Weights and Measures Department. We're all in the same. So we're kind of both a pesticide use enforcement inspector and a weights and measures inspector. So you kind of kill two birds with one stone with us. We'll go over a lot of this in the later slides, but we're not treating you any different. As farmers and ranchers, we're going to require you to get the operator ID for pesticide use reporting. We're going to require you to report your use of pesticides, post the documents that you need for your pesticide use. Train your employees, have certified trainers. And then storage, use of the pesticide is all going to have to be up to code. And then obviously having a scale. So what the operator ID is, I'll go over this all really quick because you're going to come into our office and do all this. We'll give you all the paperwork, yada yada. Essentially, we'll give everybody a unique operator ID number. Issued to you, the operator of the property, the manager of the property. You can get a letter of authorization. Say you're the owner of the license, but you're not going to be the guy that's mainly in charge of the farm. You're, say in the Bay Area 90% of the time. You can have somebody delegated with a letter of authorization, and that's online on our website that you can get that says, Joe Smith is my employee, and he's in charge of my farm, managing my farm. Farm manager is what you'll put. And then you sign it, he signs it, and now that guy is essentially the guy in charge of the program for pesticide use. This is just an example of what a pesticide use report looks like. You'll get one exactly like that. With you guys, we'll give you a 1-year permit since you're an annual crop. For perennial crops, sometimes we'll go 3 years if they do the use reporting well enough. Pesticide use reporting, again, required for everybody essentially. Specific commodity code is on there through DPR, so it'll say cannabis or unspecified cannabis, I think is what it says. Yeah, it has cannabis / something else. And you're reporting anything with an EPA registration number, and that's right on the bottle. I think we have something on here later. This is just an example of a pesticide use report. You can see, what you used, how many acres were treated, or say planted acres, treated acres, did it by ground. I don't think anyone will do anything by air, not enough space. And then, say I used 1 quart in 25 gallons of Venerate CG bioinsecticide, something DPR is allowed. Can you use drones to spray? Yes. Yeah, so I guess that would be air. Yeah. Yeah. Pesticide use reporting. This is an online template. So if you get a web user ID with us, very easy when we're issuing the operator ID, very easy to get, and then you don't have to turn these in. And they're due the 10th of the next month. So say you sprayed in April. We'd want to see one by May 10th. All right, pesticide storage. We just want to see that all your pesticides are in a locked storage container so, kids can't get into them, drink them, yada, yada, that kind of stuff. Or if there's, it can't topple over and spills everywhere. You shouldn't have any danger or warning chemicals, but if you did, then you would need one of those signs down at the bottom left. But that's an example of a pesticide storage at the bottom right from the last time we had the program, and it's adequate. It has a lock on it. Personal protective equipment required for all employees is eye protection. The Z87 on the eyewear is the regulation we're looking for when we look at the eyewear. Temple and brow protection is technically what it says. And then gloves. And those are going to be the gloves that are not flock lined, but they are, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, but they got to be 14 mil. So they got to be pretty thick. Like the dishwash gloves are probably 14 mil, but they can't be flock lined. So they got to be like that plastic coating. Chemical resistant. Personal protective equipment storage. Don't store your PPE with your chemicals. Okay, pesticide container disposal. I heard this was brought up earlier. Essentially what we want to see, triple rinsed and then put back into whatever you were spraying, your spray tank, and then cut a hole in it so that it can't be filled up with something else. Okay, scale certification. This is kind of a big one. Make sure when you guys do buy a scale that it is INTEP or CTEP approved. And it should say that on that paper out there. It's on the very top. I don't really love the paper that DMS put out, but it has pertinent info on the very top for what we're looking for. Essentially, you guys are going to be larger producers of product. You're not necessarily going to be weighing down to the gram. You might be weighing down to what, the pound, right? The kilogram. So yeah, so we're going to be weighing, down to the pound or the kilogram. So I would say if you're not going to be weighing any less than pounds, get a class 3 scale. If you're going to be weighing down to the gram, get a class 2 scale. A typical one last time that people got was like the company A&D. They had an EK1200i that made the class 2 scales. It was good, it was adequate. Essentially that was the class 2 weighing down to the gram. Farmers market scales work great for the class 3. Just Google Class 3 legal for trade scale, and you should find a bunch. And then the weighmaster license is required. That's online. Essentially, you can find that on DMS's website to sign up as a weighmaster. All right, I think Catherine's up.
Okay, so we are the government. Government loves paperwork, and we're going to require you to do a bunch of paperwork. So just some quick definitions. A pesticide is any product you put on a plant to kill a pest. And that pest could be an insect, another plant, a fungi, a mite, a rodent. So any of those are considered pesticides. Handlers, anybody who handles the pesticides, if you hire people in later on to come into your field to harvest, those would be field workers. Safety data sheets you're going to need along with the label, and PPE is your personal protective equipment. So we're just going to use some of these terms over and over again. Because you're ag, if you have people who are applying pesticides, you do need a decontamination site. Basically, that's a place where they can have water, single-use paper towels, and eye wash. And if they are applying pesticides, they should be able to have a clean change of coveralls. Just in case you spill the pesticide on you, you want to get that material off you right away. And then if you want to continue going on, then you can put on another pair of coveralls. Very few of our products have an REI, or a restricted entry interval. Some REIs are as simple as until the product dries. Some of them are very specific that say 4-hour, 12-hour, you need to abide by that. Remember that the label is the law. Whatever that label says that you have to do, that's what you have to do. And then we'll go over some of these other things. So training. If you are going to be applying pesticides on your own, in your own ranch, farm, you are considered trained because you're the owner. If you have someone else do that, you have to train them, and the training has to be done annually. And there are some very specific ways and people who can do that training. And when you come into our office, we can talk to you about that. Trainers are someone who have qualified cards. So if you have employees, you will have to have a written training program, and we have all of these forms we will provide to you when you come over to see us. There's your training record. So we just have a couple of examples of some of the pesticides that you may be using. Now, a lot of the things that are okay for you guys to use are what's called exempt products. So there are many products that are exempt from getting that EPA registration number. These are things like thyme oil, rosemary oil, geranium oil, some of the biologicals, some of the bacteria. Some of them do, some of them don't. Like neem oil, many neem oils are exempt, but there are some neem oils that have EPA registration numbers. So you just have to look at that product label and see what it says. If it's exempt, it'll say right on there, it's exempt. If it isn't, it'll have an EPA registration number on it. So this is a product that has an EPA number on it. And is that so that EPA registration number is right here. And it's usually right under the name. Sometimes it's, like down here. So even though something is organic or OMRI listed, doesn't mean that it is exempt. They may still have these EPA registration numbers on them. And so this is all of the information. Like I said, the label's the law. Here is the personal protective equipment that you need to have for your workers. There's some more things about the agricultural standards, like if you have somebody going back in when they're at that re-entry period, they have to be dressed just as the same as if somebody was applying that pesticide. Here's another one, very common. Let's see, where's the EPA number on this one? EPA number's right here. So like I said, just because it's organic doesn't mean that it's exempt from having that EPA number, and these would be the things that would be reportable to us. There's your personal protective equipment. And then along with having that label available, you also have to have safety data sheets. And these can be easily downloaded on the internet, but we do want you to have those as well. It gives you lots of other information like, you know, what would happen if you splash it in your eye? What would happen if you accidentally drank this stuff? What do you do? Do you induce vomiting? Do you say, no, don't vomit? You know, get this person to the hospital immediately. All of that information will be in your SDS sheets. And everything we do is basically to keep you safe. We want you to be safe, and we want everybody working on your farm to be safe. And all of these regulations are geared towards that. So this is just a safety data sheet for that same product, the Regalia CG. And then, like I said, we love us some paperwork. So we have a lot of required postings, and out there on the table, we did bring these. These are required paperwork, and it tells you if you have no employees, what we require of you. And you can see that when you have employees, the list is much longer because it's your responsibility to keep those employees safe. So we want to make sure you do that. This is the A series. This comes directly from DPR. We require you to have these postings, and we require you to fill these things out. So where is the closest hospital or medical center to where your farm is? We want to see that filled out. Yeah, is it right here in town across the street? If you're down in Valley Springs, where's the closest one down there? If you're up in Arnold, where's the closest one up there? We will provide you with that information when you come into us and you get your operator ID. But we will give you this paperwork too. And that's what the medical care posting looks like. We also want you to keep a record of what you applied. So not only do you have to provide us with pesticide use reports, you also have to make sure that it's available to your workers. It's their right to know when you did a pesticide application, what that pesticide is, and when you did it. So we just want to keep everybody safe. We put this out there. We've got this scale information out there. We also have, if anybody is that far along in the process that they need the Weighmaster application, this is the Weighmaster application. The state has decided that everyone who is involved in this industry needs to be a Weighmaster. And so that is something you're going to need from the state. And how much does all this cost? Weighmaster is $75 with the state. When you come in and register your scale with us, it's $120 and some change. To get the operator ID, it's free. So we're like the best agency you guys are going to have to deal with because most everything is either free or isn't that much money.
It's $75 for the state plus $20 per person applying.
No, per scale.
For the Weighmaster license, right? Yeah. If you only have one person, it's only the $75. But yeah. Oh, you had to pay the $20 too? Ah, okay. All right, thank you for that. Yes?
Okay. What's the conditions you use predatory insects? Where you would use ladybugs or thrips or something, and you release those into the garden? Do we sign with you, or do we have to let you know?
Nope.
Or if we have 190 people turning ladybugs loose in Calaveras County, is that some kind of environmental? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear you. Have any of, during the winter, if you go up to West Point and you go down to the river and you step out of your vehicle, there are 300 million ladybugs because that's where they winter In this foothills region, if you go here by Oroville, by Placerville, in this region is where those ladybugs will all go in the winter. So releasing a few more is not going to be that big of a deal. Yeah.
We see
Those-
it through UPS. Sometimes I'll see,
Right.
predatory mites and whatever the company is. We see it coming through
They're not
UPS.
red, or not red, not red. There's some big organic bug manufacturer.
Right.
They breed.
Those do not fall under our purview because it is not a pesticide that has an EPA registration number. Those are the ones that we are most concerned with, those things that have the EPA number on it. So those are the only things you have to report to us. If you're using, even though you're going to be using all the exempt products, you're still going to need to come and get the operator ID with us because that's required by the county. But you're not going to have to do any of that reporting. So it'll save you some time. Yeah.
The other question I had was, where do you want this? Is it with your big employee, your employee sheet, where you sprayed your pesticides? Do you want that there? And these are the pesticides that were sprayed. Like you got one whole wall and, I don't know, the employee break area.
That's fine. In some places that we go to, some of the, like some of the walnut orchards, there's no building there. But they still have to have those postings. And so it's wherever the employees gather. We have seen them posted on the side of porta potties because that's a spot where all the employees are going to see it. Or, this is their like break room, or this is the canopy they all sit under to have their lunch.
Put it across from the commode.
That's fine with us. Yeah, as long as it's posted somewhere, and it should be wherever your employees gather for the day, gather for the morning, have their lunch, something like that. Yeah, we don't have any, yeah, exactly, yeah. And the same with your storage areas. I mean, we've seen, the one that Justice showed with, a nice cabinet. As long as it locks up, we're good. Same with your PPE. I've seen PPE stored in a bin in the garage. That's fine. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. In one of the walnut orchards, they have like a big metal container that's in the orchard. They put all of their pesticides in that. Right. Lid comes down, it's got a big lock on it. That's great. Yeah, as long as it's locked and you don't store your PPE in with your pesticides, we're good with you being creative.
How about cleaning your spray equipment? You just, on the ground, that solution, you run it all out on the plants and then...
Run it all out on the plants.
And spray it on the ground?
Yeah, I would spray it back on your plants, yeah. We kind of...
Then you're washing off what you spray.
Yeah. It's a good question, yeah, where are you going to clean that equipment? We prefer that if you are not going to use whatever that rinsate is, that it stays in the container that pesticide was in. So if it's really diluted, leave it in that container. Rock Creek Landfill will take those containers, as long as the label is still on it, they will take those containers. So if you don't feel like spraying it out, don't just dump it on the ground. If you're not going to pour it back into your spray rig, pour it back into the container it came out of, and then dispose of that properly. Yeah, and never ever put pesticides in anything for food. This is how kids get poisoned every year. Dad brings home some pesticide. He poured it in a Gatorade bottle. He got out of his truck, the Gatorade bottle's sitting there. Kid comes along and, oh, wow, Dad left a drink. And now, you're rushing the kid to the hospital. That's one of the things that we look for when we come out, is to make sure that those things have labels on them. Yeah. Never in a food container. Anybody else? Well, we look forward to seeing all of you in the Ag Department. We're kind of the last stop after you get through everything else. give us a call, make an appointment, and we'll get you signed up for that operator ID. If you need these, they're out on the table. Here's the Waymaster application if you need that too.